Good morning. Today we are going to talk about Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is about the high-level company strategy and how you'll be able to achieve the company strategy through the different projects implementation. So for a company, they are often having so many projects to consider undertaking. But which project they should prioritize their limited resource on? It's critical to the success of not only the projects, but also to the sustainable operation of a company. So in this chapter, we are going to talk about 4 different major issues. The first one is you need to learn about, for a company, a CEO, top-level managers, or even for project managers, what kind of strategic management process they have to go through, okay, before they can boil down to a different type of project and they can consider from and then implement that in order to achieve the company strategy. The second thing is for you to understand there's a need for company to prioritize their project selection. The reason is it doesn't matter large or small company, they are often constrained with limited resources and time. So it's important to dedicate that limited resource to that project that's most critical to the success of a company. And that's why the third section we are going to talk about called portfolio management systems, where you can apply the financial and non-financial selection tool to help a company select the right project to support the success of company strategies. So let's quickly go to the strategic management process. So this is more like a top-down approach. As you can tell, a company usually have a big mission, a long-term goal they would like to achieve. For instance, the Walmart, the mission is to offer everyday low price. So that's a mission, okay? But what do they mean by offering the lower price than competitor? By how much? And that's what the SMART goal comes into. Remember, we talked about specifics. Okay, so lower price by 5%, 10%, then the price of Harris Teeter. So that had to be set in place. And in order for company to implement the strategy, and so as to accomplish the mission, the tool they have to use is come up with different projects. Okay, so this is where a company thinking of going to become. They have a clear goal to make it happen, but to make it happen, they have to go through different projects. That's why for any company, there's a constant need for an effective project manager who can work on a project quickly, help a company achieve the goal, and in the long term, help a company achieve the mission. So that is the first part. Let's look at the second part, which is called project priority systems. If you were a top-level manager, and the issue you'll be dealing with is you are constantly receiving many different project proposal ideas, but you only have so much budget, so much time for them to undertake different projects. And because of limited resources and company coming up with their own ideas, so it's very likely the company is going to be involved in lots of politics. Whoever had a better connection are going to win the project. That is not ideal for a company's long-term sustainability. And you are also going to be constantly with all the resources conflicts. Again, no company, large or small, has unlimited resources. And with so many projects competing for the same resources, so for instance, a talented programmers being assigned to 10 projects, but he only had 8 hours to work. So you're going to have different function departments constantly fighting for him or her times in order to make sure their project won't be left behind. So to avoid This kind of issue, it's important for a company to have a strong project priority system, or what we call project portfolio management systems, where they will be able to objectively evaluate different project ideas and assess their contribution to the mission and goal of a company in the long term. So if you have a good project portfolio system in place, you'll be better able to allocate resources only to the project that align with strategic direction of the company. You can also kill the project that do not support strategy, meaning that you won't have too many projects to manage. Instead, you're only going to manage a fewer projects, and which can contribute significantly to the success of a project's strategies. In general, when a company evaluating projects, they can classify projects into three kinds. One is called compliance. Compliance is something they must do. They couldn't say no. For instance, the government has a new regulation. We just passed the new tax regulation. So that's something you have to comply with. You just have to come up with a project to make sure you are complying with the new government regulation. Strategic objective, the strategic project are projects that are going to have long-term impact that will take at least 3 to 5 years. Operational project are some project they must do now in order to continue your business operation. Strategic project is more for long-term, so it won't affect the success of your current operation, but in the long term, your company's competitiveness may depend on the success or failure of your strategic projects. And so that's why we talk about the importance of having a portfolio management system. So in the textbook, they talk about two kinds. And one you already dealt with when you did the first exercise. Remember, you came up with different criteria by assigning each criteria with different weight. And you multiply by the score assigned by all your team members. And whatever the total score you have will be the project should be considered having the most contribution to the project success and the strategic direction of a company that should be selected. So in this chapter, I'm not going to spend too much time focusing on that. Later, I'm going to just give you one example. But before that, let's look at the financial selection model. Financial selection model, here I only want to make sure you can demonstrate to do 3 calculations. One is called payback period. How soon the money you were given to do a project, how soon you'll be able to bring back that investment to your sponsor, and then you start making a net profit. And there will be another financial model called return investments. It's just like you're giving a company, giving a bank, $100,000 with 10 interest rate. And so you're getting about, $10 per year. So that 10% is your return investment. And lastly will be your net present values. We'll talk about that in just a second. Net present value is think about the money, has different value over years. So for instance, if I'm giving you $100 right now versus $100 that I promised to give to you 10 years down the road, which one do you like better? Do you prefer to have it $10 right now or $10 10 years later? Think about all the inflation and everything. So the money 10 years later you're going to be receiving is going to be discounted with inflation rate and interest rate. And that's why it's important when you are evaluating one project against another in terms of their financial contribution, you want to make sure you consider the discounted value. And one way to do it is to bring everything back to as of today. And that way you can compare apple and apples. Okay. So I'm going to give you some demonstration with an Excel sheet and showing you how you'll be able to calculate the payback period, rate of return, and then doing all the net present values. So with those 3 values, you'll be able to calculate it. Then you will have an objective, the numbers to decide what project should be prioritized instead of engaging in the politics and fighting for limited resources. So we will talk about that in just a second. Let me know if you have a question. I hope you enjoy my presentation for now.